Introducing NASM One, NASM's ultimate membership program. Unlock access to everything your fitness career needs to succeed. Unlimited CEUs, free courses, access to our premium app, and exclusive discounts, all for $35 a month. NASM One is best-in-class tools, cutting-edge certifications, confidence in your craft, and everything you do as a personal trainer made easy, so we can achieve our greatest goals together as one.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today live on the Master Instructor Roundtable. I'm Marty Miller here with my co-host, fellow Master Instructor, Miss Wendy Batts. Wendy, how are you this day after Halloween?
So good. So good. Halloween was great, by the way. And my kid was a big fat pumpkin. We put like one of those inflatable air things in there. So we didn't have any falls. We got a ton of candy. It was a really good day.
Well, before we get started, I did an unofficial poll on my coffee talk earlier in the week, and no shocker, maybe I was a little jaded and maybe I kind of leaned the question here, but the favorite candy was peanut butter cups. Just saying. Well, stop it, Wendy.
I'm all about the Kit Kat. So, or what is it, 100,000 grand or whatever?
Well, at least you're in the chocolate family. But let's move on to today's topic. So today, Wendy, obviously, I think this is a very important one for you. I know your schedule. I know how you burn the candle at both ends. But today, we're going to talk about something critically important. We're going to talk about sleep hygiene.
Yes. I was going through the deck and was like, oh man, what not to do. And I'm checking all the boxes as we go slide by slide. So I know I wear a bunch of different technology at night. I have an Oura Ring. I use my Garmin. I look at especially my sleep patterns, and, I'm just not getting enough sleep. And when I do, it's interrupted for multiple reasons. But, when you've got kids and, you're trying to work and clean the house and do the things, you wait for everyone to go to bed. So you're staying up way later, you're answering emails, which is terrible to do, especially when it's with work. And, when I see my data the next morning, I'm really not shocked, but I know what I need to do. I just need to, that's my goal in 2024 is literally sleep more and work less.
I'm going to hold you accountable because I've known you for almost 20 years now. And I think this has been a reoccurring theme. But, Wendy, you and I have both trained some elite CEO type of men and women. And I think you and I, we're going to age ourselves. At least I'll age myself here because I have a birthday this month coming up. But we remember when it was a bragging right to talk about how little sleep you got. People are like, oh, if you're sleeping more than 4 hours, you're behind, and, blah, blah, blah. And, we know, and we maybe have to do a sleep hygiene part 2 on this one now that I think about it, because when you look at, the ramifications of not sleeping, there's a higher indication for Parkinson's, and there's a higher indication for Alzheimer's and all of these other things. And then think about us trying to get into fitness and push the envelope and become better at, in whatever we're doing from a phase of training or sporting activity. We only get better when we recover. And the only time our body can heal is when we're sleeping. So I can say that I've seen a shift in the mindset. And Wendy, you know me, I'm a creature of habit. The one thing I really don't mess with is my sleep.
Yeah, you're very, very good at that. And I think this is when you said, let's do one on sleep, I'm like, you know what? I think it's really important. And I'm glad that we're doing this live. So remember, we are live. So if you guys have questions for Marty Miller and myself, especially around sleep or, how to maybe better your sleeping patterns, please put them in the comments, and we will do our best to get to them before the end of our Master Instructor Roundtable. However, I want to say as a trainer, it's also, we've done multiple roundtables when we're talking about how hard it is to be a personal trainer. And I do want to emphasize this because this was a huge mistake that I've made, especially in the beginning of my career, is I had, which is important, you want this financial goal that you want to hit. And if you sit down at the beginning of the year and you write down, okay, this is as many sessions as I need to do or have in order to hit this end bottom line number, and then you start to think about how many sessions that would be each month, then you're going to do whatever it is to chase clients and get those sessions. So therefore you make that amount of money. I did that. And I will say, guys, you have to make sure that you make time for yourself, because if you started training at 5 or 5:30 in the morning, which is what I used to do because I wanted my CEOs that had a full schedule, and you start working that early, I would have to get up at 3:30, shower, do whatever I needed to do, and then drive to my place of employment. And then I would work from 5:30 until maybe noon. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a break. And then I'm done on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm done for the day. Well, then that ended up leading, well, I can only come on my lunch break. So then they would come from 12 to 1. And then, I need to come before my kids get off the bus. That was 1 to 2. And then at that point, it's like I might have 30 minutes maybe to grab something to eat. And then I would start my afternoon sessions of my kids or whatever. And then the parents that had to work would come in the evening sessions. And so sometimes I would work straight through from 5:30 in the morning or 5 in the morning until 8 at night. And I didn't take care of myself. By the time I was home, I was eating super late. And then at that point, I wanted to go to the gym. And, I was thinking about this. This is when you say 4 hours of sleep, that was a good night for me. And I just want you guys to think about self-care, think about yourself, think about the information Marty and I are getting ready to go through. But it is something where you guys have to start saying what's more important, your health, your sleep, or really trying to make way more money than you probably needed. And don't wait until later in your career to figure out that it's just not worth it.
Yeah, right. And as we go through the next couple bullet points here, we'll bring up the objectives of what we're going to do. Please understand, this is not only just for you. This is exactly what you need to speak to your clients about, because they may not get the best out of their workouts. They may not want to come in for their sessions because they're running that same schedule. So, lead by example, put this into practice, and then you can tell them how you've accomplished this as well. So we're going to talk about the importance of sleep a little bit. I think, Wendy, maybe you and I need to come back now that I've seen, just the first couple of minutes, and maybe we'll dig into part 2 and talk about what happens when you don't sleep or what happens when you do sleep, because we're going to get into just a little bit of that. Then we'll talk about the techniques that improve sleep hygiene. And then, Wendy, you already hit bullet point 3, our sleep habits. And, then maybe I'll talk about mine a little bit as well.
I like it. All right, so let's dive in. So look at some of these bullet points as we go through and think through them about the sleep rule. And I love this, 10, 3, 2, 1, 0. And so what that means is 10 hours before bed, no more caffeine. And I can say I love coffee. I am a huge coffee drinker, but it's really important to think too, when do you want to go to sleep, and then kind of backtrack. Because I do the same thing. I drink coffee until a certain amount of time. And then if I absolutely want something warm, I'm going to go to decaf. And I am that person that's very sensitive to caffeine. So that is absolutely no joke. 3 hours before bed, no more food or alcohol. All right. Make sure you make a note of that. 2 hours before bed, no more work. Put the phone away. The emails can wait until the morning. There's nothing that's that important unless maybe, you need your text messages on. If you've got, I know I've got a dad that's in 83. So of course I leave my phone on just in case, but try not to look at your phone, because again, 1 hour before bed, no more screen time. So shut off your phone if you can, TVs and computers. And then 0, do not hit snooze in the morning. Again, I fail.
I'll get to the snooze one, my philosophy, when we go through the next slides. But, Wendy, when I was putting this together, absolutely, this is not a me thing. You'll see the reference right there. I absolutely stole this from Health Hub. I thought they did a phenomenal job. So I'm not taking any credit for the content, but I think it's a key thing for us to discuss. So let's move forward and kind of dive into this a little deeper and talk about why these things are so important. So we'll start here kind of maybe with the caffeine. So let's move forward here. Oh, I know there we go. Okay. Thank you, our producer. Sometimes there's a little lag. So Wendy, you talked about caffeine, and we got to be careful on where caffeine is. It's in a lot of things that you may not know. And real quickly, there's drinks out there that sometimes sneak up on you with how much caffeine there is in them. And sometimes it's way more than a cup of coffee. So we're just talking about caffeine right now. You'll see some of the, pictures over there, flat white versus iced coffee, espresso, green teas, things like that. But caffeine levels peak 1 hour after consuming. coffee and stay at this level for up to 5 hours. I don't think a lot of people realize that, because sometimes they'll have coffee in the morning, then they'll have an energy drink before they work out, and then they'll have, vitamin B12 and all these other things that keep things ramped up. So you do have to be careful of the total volume that you're looking at. So I found that interesting. By the 6th hour, around half the caffeine is still in the body. So it's not like it just vanished and goes away. And then that's why there's that 10-hour rule, because it'll take 10 hours, depending on how your body processes caffeine, for it to no longer be in the body. And then, as I said, eating and drinking alcohol before bed can impact your ability to fall asleep. Wendy, you talked about that as well. Eating late at night can disrupt your circadian rhythm. That's really what it is. We're not really worried necessarily about the calories in if, it's your calories outmatched for the day, but it does not allow your body to really fall into that deep circadian rhythm, because your body's still working to digest and metabolize food. So your body's supposed to be shutting down to rest. So if you put it under strain by eating or having caffeine, by ramping it up, it's just going to make things harder right there. So those are just some of the simple things about caffeine and or looking at the alcohol or food before you go to bed.
And plus, you have to think about the type of sleep. I mean, I know, Marty, every once in a while you might have a glass of wine, especially when you go to Italy, or I may have a drink or so, when I'm out with some friends or my family. And I know when I go to sleep, I'm like sweating. So, I wake up, I'm just hot because my body is trying to metabolize that as I'm going to sleep, because I usually, will go out, shower, and then lay down and go to bed. So it's definitely not good for you. And if you guys have ever had those little sweats, you know what I'm talking about. They're not fun. And I'm not talking about because I'm getting older. I don't have those sweats yet. I'm just saying.
I wasn't saying a word.
I wanted to put that out there because we are live. So we're not there yet, people. I'm close, but I'm not there yet. So.
I'm not saying a word. The only ones that I've heard of is like when I'm with a bunch of my buddies and we go to like one of those all you can eat, what is it? The Brazilian steakhouse, you get the meat sweats because you ate 7 pounds, right? So, got to stay off that because clearly your body's not going to process that well before you go to bed. So for those of you just joining us today, myself, Marty Miller, and here with Wendy Batts, my co-host on the Master Instructor Roundtable, we're talking about sleep hygiene, the benefits or the formula to get good sleep. So as we move into this, we'll continue on down that conversation. So, we talked about work. Wendy, you talked about it. Finishing work or studying 2 hours before bed can help with sleep. The body and the brain need time to relax and prepare for a night of sleep. Think of how much, anxiety and information and things that have come through. We need some downtime, right? We need to relax a little bit, disconnect. Yes, it's hard nowadays with phones and computers. And so there are some people who have jobs that they get to leave their job when they leave their job, but that's getting less and less, I haven't had one of those jobs in a long time where once I left, I was not going to hear from anybody. Running a facility, things could happen at 4 a.m. or 9 p.m, or I had to do budgets and get to other things, or somebody could reach out. So you do have to have some discipline on that. And even if you're speaking to your clients, say, hey guys, by 8 o'clock, I'm putting my do not disturb on, so if talk about your cancellation policy, things like that. If you do not, get a hold of me before 8 p.m., just because I want to be my best version of me for you the next day, I'm not going to get that message till the morning. Those are things to consider. So it's not just your laptop and phone that you have to avoid. It's all the screens, right? If you enjoy binge watching a series, a sporting event, playing a game on a computer, you got to turn them off an hour before bed if you really want to go to bed. It's harder. I'm on the East Coast, right? So sporting events are later on at night. So there's a lot of times I'm watching it until I go to bed. Now, luckily, the blue light doesn't seem to affect me as much and I'm a good sleeper, but it's still a risk of watching that. It does allow me to detox my brain from an anxiety or stress from work, but I'm still putting that excitement and engagement into my body, right? Especially if my Buffalo Bills are playing, you're hyped up, right? So, it's just something to consider. But I think that the sporting events is the hardest one for me to have turned off. Other TV stuff, I don't get caught up in that. But
did you not get caught up in the World Series last night?
No, I did not.
Oh, I did. See, I'm telling you again, that is another way to
sleep.
ruin your sleep, especially if your team lost. So I wanted both to win, so it didn't matter.
Right. There you go. Those are some key points.
Yeah.
So Wendy, I'll let you take this one here.
Yeah. I mean, I think forget about this blue light. The blue light can do a lot to our eyes and to our brain. And when the screens, it's reducing the production of melatonin, which controls your sleep-wake cycle. So again, when you're talking about the circadian rhythm, that anytime you have your computer on or you're doing something, especially if it's dark and then you're watching the screen, you're going to notice too that your brain and everything, you just can't turn it off. And then it starts to disrupt that cycle. And so when we go back and we start looking more at the details here, you're going to notice that, people start to also take melatonin before they go to bed, and then they're still on their screens. So it's like, what is that doing? You're taking something and ingesting it, even though you should be able to produce it on your own. But it does make it difficult to fall asleep and wake up the next morning. So when you're thinking about blue light, it's reducing the amount of time you spend in the rapid eye movement. That's the REM sleep, guys, is one of the most important components of sleep. It is definitely your shortest cycle, but that's what you need for cognitive functioning. And so I know if we do part 2 and we start talking about, like you said, dementia or any of these other, diseases and things that we're hearing more and more about, if we can stop this now and we think about what it's doing to us, especially in the future or long term, it really is very important. Or if you have to be on, they actually make glasses now that are supposed to block the blue light.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it actually works, but I know they're out there. So maybe something to consider.
No, I think that, from what I've seen, I think it's a great idea and purchase. I don't need readers yet, even though I'm over that age, Wendy. So I'm beating the curve, but it could go any day. I know that could just be like a train wreck where I can't see anything, but I know that people get those readers and, or their glasses with the blue light. And, I trained an ophthalmologist before, and he said it's crucial. So my one son, who doesn't need glasses yet, but he runs a business from his computer, he actually wears blue light glasses, which is, genius, right? Because
I have a pair, but I've never worn them.
Well, now you will, Wendy. Jeez.
Think about my husband. He's like, you need these and you need this. So I'm like,
right.
Okay, great.
Start wearing them. So no, it is critical. And I think it's just these little things that we can do. And Wendy, I'm passionate about cognitive fitness. So we know exercise is the best thing, as a preventative, but sleep is right there. Like, it's 50-50 in a sense. Like, you have to be active, you have to move, you have to do certain type of exercising that challenges you, but you better refill that tank every day. So those are the two things that, I try not to mess with.
You're very good, Marty. You are very structured.
I'm boring. I'm structured. So now this one I'm going to take, because I've had this mindset before I knew anything. So I've never been a snoozer. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'm not judging snoozers, but I don't understand
I'm a snoozer. Do not judge me.
Okay, I'm judging you, and only you. You're the only snoozer I'm going to judge. I don't get it. I would rather sleep to the very last minute, sleep, get up and go. The snoozing thing, for 20, 30 minutes, you're robbing yourself of sleep that you could have had. So I never looked into the research before it. I was just going by what my mindset was, is I don't understand. I'd rather sleep, and then go. So guess what? My thought process is right. So if you're hitting the snooze button and fall back to sleep, this is a habit you should break. The sleep we get just before waking up, Wendy, is what? The REM sleep that you just talked about, or dream stage of sleep. So hitting that snooze disrupts this stage of sleep. And if the snooze button makes your heart race, it's a flight or fight response. Your body doesn't need this early in the morning. So my instinct was right. So Wendy, you are going to get better about a couple things: wearing your blue light, or, glasses, and not snoozing.
Well, I will tell you this, though. I think for me, it's one of those, if I set my alarm and I know that I can hit my alarm 2 times before I have to get up, or I'm going to be late for all the things that I have scheduled for that morning. And so for me, it's like, ooh, I feel like I'm kind of playing a little bit with myself by saying, oh, I got 5 more minutes. I can just lay here and relax. Half the time, it's not necessarily me that does the first wake up call. It's my husband's alarm. And he has one of those really annoying alarms because it's really hard for him to wake up. So that's when my heart starts racing if his phone goes off before mine, or his alarm, because it's that annoying like horn, the and you're in deep sleep. It's not good. However, that is the mindset that I have. And it is terrible, but I've done that since I was in high school. I literally
Wendy, you're a science person, you're evidence-based. You're going to have to apply 100%. It to all areas. So now here's the thing. Could I see why someone would like to have 10 minutes just to relax in the morning? Sure. But I would, if I would want to get up at 6 o'clock, I'd set my alarm for 5:50, not hit snooze, and just do that breathing techniques, maybe a little meditation or whatever it takes to kind of reset your brain for the day. So I think that's cool. I've seen people do that. But for the sleep part, sleep till the last minute, let the alarm go off once, and then, yeah, maybe lay there and do some relaxation techniques as long as you don't fall back asleep. But that constant snooze thing, Wendy, we're evidence-based. We now have an answer.
Oh, I know the answer. I just don't. Marty, I know the answers to all of this. Okay. Fully aware, but that's, when we're looking, these points I think are really important because again, you can see where we pulled this data. It's an important part of every day in terms of how a person's going to function. You guys know when you've had a really poor night's sleep, how bad you feel the next day. You're just groggy, you're run down. You actually have to drink more caffeine to try to see if that can help wake you up. And so we know that we're going to be run down. We know we're not going to be functioning as good as we possibly can. If you guys have traveled international and you've had really poor sleep and then you have to go and be on and present and you're exhausted,
Sounds familiar.
Have to find, not like this just happened, but you have to like dig deep and try to find some energy in order to really be able to give the presentation or do whatever it is that you want to do to your best ability. Obviously, that's not something that you want to do all the time. And so just think about how you're feeling. And then that's going to also help dictate, do you need more or do you feel like you're getting the right amount for yourself? But as a restorative tool, it's necessary for nearly everyone. I mean, think about your physical ability, physiological and psychological. So we just talked about the importance of REM sleep, especially with cognitive function. We know that it plays a huge, huge role in just our day-to-day. But then too, if you're waking up and you're super dehydrated, you have headaches all the time, you were restless in your sleep, you have data to show how many points of movement you had at night. I mean, all of that is really fascinating information. And I think really good information if you're starting to feel this way, but yet you haven't looked at your sleep cycle. But sleep or lack thereof plays a significant role in your physical and mental health. We obviously know that. But too, over the quality of your life, even your safety. If you're super tired and you're driving to work in the morning, I drive to work, it's pitch black in the morning, or I'm driving home sometimes at night, it's pitch black at night and you're exhausted. You make poor decisions sometimes in your driving, or you could easily fall asleep and not just hurt yourself, but others around you. So that's when we talk about safety. There's so many things to think about. We know it as a restorative function. We talked about that. So it's very vital, especially for children in the growing ages. So think about their growth, the development, healing, and learning. So when they say that children need 7 to 10 hours, they really need 10 hours or more in order to fully get the sleep that their body needs in order to, be able to do these things. And then if you're sleep deficient, they're at a greater risk of heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, and obesity. So I am in deep trouble, but I know what I need to do. And again, 2024 is right around the corner. So that is a goal of mine. I want to get 6 to 8. I'm going to say it on here, 6 to 8 hours a night is my goal for 2024. So we'll see how that goes. We'll do a check midway through the year, see if I'm heading down the right path or not.
I think we should do it at the end of January, to be fair. So you have time to course correct, but just saying.
All right. So start now. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. So a couple other key points. And Wendy, I do think we need to come back. When I was putting this together, this was one I put together, I was going down this path, but now from the conversations we're having, there's so much more about sleep. And I think we can come back in a couple of weeks and talk about the benefits of sleep, what happens from an exercise standpoint, all the other physiological things that we talked about. This was really, truly more about your habits, but I did see a number, and we will come back with this specific number, but I want to say I saw like 4 to 5 years of life expectancy, and then there's a huge increase for sure in, age-related dementia stuff. So those type of things scare me a little bit there myself. So, we will come back, we will put some work into it and get some more data if you guys like. So you'll have our contact information here in a minute. You'll let us know. But, I think the key takeaways, Wendy, is this is all about you. This was my way to really put you on the spot in front of our group. And
appreciate that.
That's right. You didn't know it when I did it.
It's always like Wendy's flaws. That's what we should start calling these. Wendy's flaws, part 1, part 2. We're on like version 20 right now. So.
Wendy, you're human, and you're just, you know what I mean? It just is what it is. But you're a great sport about it. And
you know what? But I'm honest. And here's the thing: I am accepting responsibility. I've got no one to blame but myself for a lot of the things that I do, and lack of sleep. I just feel sometimes that I need to clean the house, or I need to fold laundry. I need to do things when everyone's asleep, because that's the time that I can actually get it done without being interrupted, or I have work or something going on. Yeah. So,
but then you can pick on me about how I schedule everything. So it goes both ways. But the key thing here is, do you focus on your sleep hygiene? Do you just kind of go to bed when you can, or do you actually have a plan for that? I think that's critical. Hopefully you have a takeaway here that you can also talk to your clients, because if you want them to be their best, and them to get the best benefits, and them to age well and can be consistent with their training, this is something that you need to speak to them about. And it's, so those are points 1 and 2. And then don't forget the importance of sleep. All the effort we put in all day, whether it's eating healthy, moving, exercising, trying to take in information to become the best version of us. And that could be Wendy being the best version for her little guy. That could be me being the best version for whomever I'm working with. Is we're always better when we're well rested. So it does affect the circle around you, right? Like, we've all had cranky people around us says you need a nap, so part of that is, don't forget the importance of sleep. And I would really, make a mental note, start tracking it, and then try to adjust the schedule so you get 7+ hours sleep.
I like it. 7+. I said 6 to 8. So
You're in there. You're on the low end is the 6. We'll start with that. But
well, guys, I know that we were live today, Marty. We didn't seem like we had any questions come in. However, if you think about questions later on and you want to contact Marty or myself, here's our information. So you can email me directly at wendy.batts@nasm.org, or you can find me on Instagram at wendy.batts13.
Yep. And my information's popping right up here, dr.martymiller72. And then my email, marty.miller@nasm.org. So first and foremost, Wendy, thanks for being honest. Because like I said, we have struggles with different things, but, I know that sleep has been something you're always trying to work on. So, it's good. People think that we live in this perfect bubble, right? Just because we do this for a living. We're humans. We have the same struggles that any of our clients do. And it's always good to discuss it. So thanks for being a great sport. And for all of you that joined us today, don't forget to check out all our podcasts. You can download all the podcasts, listen to them anywhere that you look at your podcast. We have many podcasts here with NASM. And then also you can go to NASM's YouTube channel. So thank you guys so much. And we can't wait to see you next week on the Master Instructor Roundtable.